In the NFL, we all get so wrapped up in the season itself, right? But honestly, the off-season can be even crazier. It's like this giant high-stakes game of chess with owners and GMs moving pieces around. And sometimes one single move, like one coaching hire, can just set off this incredible chain reaction. It's a domino effect that can literally change the fortunes of multiple teams overnight. And today, we're going to dive deep into a perfect example of that: the New York Giants hiring John Harbaugh. We're going to trace how that one decision in New York kicked off a scramble in Baltimore and is now sending ripples all across the league. It really makes you wonder. I mean, seriously, how can one guy have that much of an impact? That's the big question we're tackling today. And it's not just about drawing up better plays or, knowing when to blitz. This goes way deeper. We're talking about power structures, the entire philosophy of a franchise, and that desperate search for one person who can pull a team out of a nosedive. We're going to break down how going after one man, a guy with a Super Bowl ring, didn't just give the Giants a new coach. It completely rewrote their chain of command. And in doing that, it left his old team, the Ravens, scrambling to figure out who they are now, in a league that, let's be honest, doesn't wait for anyone. All right, so here we go. The first domino has officially tipped over. The coaching carousel is spinning like crazy every year, and the first huge piece just clicked into place. After what felt like forever, weeks of rumors, speculation, and nonstop chatter, the New York Giants, a team that's been just desperate for a new identity, they finally made their big move. The John Harbaugh era in Baltimore, it's over. And a whole new, high-stakes chapter is about to start in New York. And there it is, the headline that sent shockwaves through two different NFL cities. John Harbaugh, after that long, really successful tenure with the Baltimore Ravens, has signed a 5-year deal. He is the next head coach of the New York Giants. Now, let's be really clear here. This is not just some standard coaching change. No way. This is a massive, bold statement from a team that's basically been wandering in the desert for the last decade. They didn't just hire a coach. They went out and got the coach, the one guy they believe can perform a kind of cultural exorcism on that entire building. This is about way more than just winning a few more games. This is about finding their soul again. Okay, so look at this. This single number tells you everything you need to know. 1. That is how many winning seasons the New York Giants have had in the last 9 years. Just let that sink in for a second. In 9 full seasons of football, only one single time did they finish with more wins than losses. That's just staggering. And it perfectly explains the rut they've been in, this cycle of failure that's been haunting them. This number? This is the why. This is where the desperation comes from. It's the reason ownership was willing to tear up the playbook, pay any price, and do whatever it took to get a proven winner like John Harbaugh. This one number justifies everything that's about to happen next. So this is where the story gets really, really interesting. Because this hire wasn't just about getting a new guy in a headset on the sidelines. No, the deal to bring John Harbaugh to New York caused a legitimate seismic shift in the entire Giants organization. I'm not talking about a small tweak to how they do things. We're talking about them taking their entire front office structure, bulldozing it, and building something completely new from the ground up. It's a total break from tradition for one of the league's oldest, most established franchises. See, to get their guy, the Giants had to give up something huge. And it wasn't just more money or an extra year on the contract. It wasn't even about giving him final say over the roster, not in the usual way. It was about something way more fundamental. It was about power, pure and simple. John Harbaugh knew he had all the leverage. He knew this team was starving for a winner, and he used that to demand a change to the very hierarchy of the building, a change to the chain of command itself. And the Giants, feeling the pressure of a decade of losing, they caved. They made a concession that is almost unheard of for that organization. And this quote right here from Albert Breer is the bombshell. Harbaugh will be reporting directly to ownership. Now think about how an NFL team usually works. The coach reports to the general manager, and the general manager reports to the owner. It's a clear pyramid. It's how it's done pretty much everywhere. But this completely blows that up. Harbaugh doesn't report to the GM anymore. He answers to one person and one person only, the owner, John Mara. So what that means is he's not just the coach. He is now an equal power in that building, standing right alongside the general manager. So you can probably guess what the next question is. This radical new setup immediately puts a giant flashing question mark over one person's office in particular, the general manager's. I mean, when you completely rewrite the org chart like this and make the coaches equal, what in the world does that mean for the guy who is supposed to be his boss? Well, the answer is, it gets messy. And it makes that GM chair a very, very uncomfortable place to sit. Okay, let's break this down visually because it makes it super clear. Over on the left, you've got the classic structure. Coach reports to the GM reports to the owner. Simple, right? The GM builds the team, the coach coaches it, and the owner holds the GM responsible for the whole thing. It's a pyramid. But now, look to the right. This new structure isn't a pyramid at all. You've got two lines going straight to the top. The head coach, John Harbaugh, and the GM, Joe Schoen, are now parallel powers. They both report directly to ownership, which means they absolutely have to be on the same page all the time. If they're not, you've got a recipe for some serious conflict and dysfunction. So what does this actually mean for Joe Schoen? Well, to put it bluntly, his job just got a whole lot harder and his power just got a whole lot weaker. Sure, he's still got the title of general manager, but his authority has just been publicly undercut. Let's be real, if there's a power struggle, if there's a major disagreement over who to draft or what free agent to sign, who's going to lose that argument? It's going to be Schoen. Why? Because ownership just bent over backwards and tore up their own rulebook for Harbaugh. He's the guy they bet the franchise on. So in any future debate, who do you think ownership's going to back? The guy they just gave the keys to the kingdom or the guy who was already there? It's pretty clear. Now, as we know, for every action in the NFL, there's always a reaction. So while the Giants are popping champagne, celebrating a hire they think will define their future, that first domino has just crashed into the second one. And that second one is the Baltimore Ravens. They are now in a full-blown scramble. They didn't just lose their coach of 15-plus years, they lost an icon, a symbol of stability. And now they're thrown into the shark-infested waters of the coaching carousel, and they gotta find a replacement fast before all the good candidates are snatched up. So yeah, the Harbaugh era in Baltimore is officially a memory, an era that brought them a Super Bowl and consistent winning seasons. Done. In the front office, they have zero time to get sentimental about it. They have immediately launched a huge, wide-ranging search for their next head coach. And by all accounts, they're casting a really wide net. They're looking at everybody. Young coordinators, old coordinators, guys from the college ranks, even guys who have been head coaches before and are looking for a second chance. They are leaving no stone unturned. And here's just a little taste of the names that have been floating around, and it really shows you they're not just looking for one type of coach. You've got defensive gurus like Jesse Minter from the college game and Robert Saleh, who you know from the Jets. Then you've got the offensive innovators like Nate Scheelhaas. And then there's that other interesting category, the second chance guys like Mike McDaniel with his super creative offense. So this list tells you they're open to anything. They're not just looking for Harbaugh 2.0. They're looking for the best possible leader wherever they can find him. But, and this is the key thing to remember, Baltimore isn't doing this in a bubble. Not at all. They are operating in a super competitive market where a bunch of other teams are all chasing the same handful of top-tier candidates. It's basically a high-stakes game of musical chairs, and while the Ravens are just getting their interview list together, the rest of the league is moving at 1,000 miles an hour, and that speed is already starting to cause some serious problems for Baltimore. So the Ravens, we heard they were really interested in that second chance type of coach, and they had reportedly locked in on one guy in particular. All the reporting suggested they were really hoping to bring in the former Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski, for a second interview. He was high on their list, right? A guy who's been there, done that, even taken a team to the playoffs. He fit the bill, and he was a big part of their early game plan to replace Harbaugh. And just like that, the plan is torched. Gone. Before the Ravens could even get Stefanski in the door for that second, more serious conversation, bam, the Atlanta Falcons jump in and hire him away. This is just a perfect and honestly brutal example of how fast this all happens. 1 minute, a guy is your top target. The next, he's at a press conference holding up another team's jersey. The Ravens never even got to make their real pitch. A huge potential option for them is just gone, wiped right off the board before their search even got going. Now check out this number, because it adds some crazy context. Kevin Stefanski getting hired by Atlanta, that filled the second of 9, a whopping 9 head coaching openings this offseason. So 2 jobs filled, 7 still open. This just shows you the insane scale of the competition. The Ravens aren't just up against 1 or 2 other teams. They are in an absolute dogfight with more than a quarter of the entire league to find their next leader. The pressure is on, and like we just saw with Stefanski, if you blink, your best option could be gone tomorrow. And so all of this brings us right back to that big, fundamental question at the center of the Harbaugh effect. We've seen the Giants make a huge, risky bet on the coach, giving him power that even trumps the general manager. And we've seen the aftershock of that decision send a stable franchise like the Ravens into a chaotic search in a super competitive market. So the question I want to leave you with is this. When your team is failing, when you're desperate for a turnaround, who do you give the keys to? Who do you trust to rebuild the entire thing? The coach on the sidelines or the GM in the front office? The answer to that is what builds dynasties and what makes the NFL offseason so dramatic. What do you think is the right way to do it? Let me know down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more NFL deep dives, do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel, NFL Nexus, and make sure you like this explainer. It really does help us out a ton. Oh, and for all you parents and grandparents out there, a great way to support the channel is by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for kids and honestly for adults too. You can find the link in the description or just scan the QR code you see on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.